Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and Sudge's decided we got some West Ham content with us today. He's got better things to do. Mind you, it'd be nice to have some West Ham sense on with us today. We are joined by our respective correspondents from Norwich City and West Ham United. We have FPL Badger Mark from Norwich. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, thanks, James. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. And we have Chris at FI_FPL Addict, our West Ham correspondent. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good. Hope you're well, James, and Mark as well.
Yeah, very good, mate. Nice to be
mate,
here
thanks.
without Sudge, and we can have three guys on here who just talk a bit of football and a bit of sense. Talking of which, Chris, can we try and talk some sense into what Sudge was saying on yesterday's main podcast, because he was very down after the draw at Newcastle, and I'm not sure that he should have been. How did you feel?
I was down in the sense that we threw away 2 points, but I was pleased with the fact that we got in front twice. And that we looked like we could actually win a game, and that we looked like we should have won a game. So it's a positive. It's positive that we weren't just sitting back, because when we conceded, when it was 1-1, it looks a bit, what are they going to do? What are they going to do now? And they didn't retreat into the shell, and that's the second time that's happened. Obviously with the Chelsea game, so that's a positive sign. But you have to take some positives out of it, and the fact that we got a point, it still helps our cause, and that the other teams lost. Helps as well. So take the positives out of it and move on to the next one, I think.
You must be very confident of staying up now.
I'm definitely more confident. I mean, it was in our hands anyway, but it's more in our hands. I'd like to think that we could win 2 games, and that would easily be enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
you'll
so.
win one after. I think that's a guarantee.
Poor Mark sitting there, and I think he's thinking, well, there's one, you only need one more.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling, Mark?
It's all a bit of a shambles, really, because it's one thing getting relegated, and yeah, we expected, to concede goals, but since the restart, there's not been anywhere near enough fight, and it just feels like we're sleepwalking into a relegation with no battle. And we was promised 9 cup finals. The players are up for it. They're going to give their heart and soul into it all. And I look around the pitch, and there's people strolling around not giving a monkeys, basically, like how I look at it. And tactically they look poor. Confidence, they've got no confidence at all. Like I say, defensively, we always knew we was up against it and we would make mistakes, but any kind of attacking threat has gone, and we didn't get a corner Saturday, and we're in a home game in a relegation battle, so it's crap, mate.
I think the first thing that people probably want to know is your thoughts on the leaving out of Cantwell and Pukki, not just for this game, but for the Everton game as well. I mean, from an outsider looking in, it just looks bizarre. What's your thinking on that?
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's saying we need to make changes to shake things up, the rotation and we played in the Championship with these guys last year. We didn't need to do that. We went 8 games on the spin without making any changes towards the end. The only reason we did is because Buendia got a sending off. So I don't get the fact that they can't play from the start. If they're, it just seems to me a bit of an excuse, really. There is a rumbling that Dude has been in the agreement with the loan deal. He got promised he would start X amount of games, which does explain potentially why he's getting a start. But yeah, it baffles me. It was too many changes for that Everton game. Buendia, Cantwell and Pukki. Yeah, that Cantwell and Pukki, 68% of our goals they've got between them. No one else has scored more than 1. So you're taking out all that attacking threat. Both of them, no, it's too much.
And in the side where, as you kind of said, you're not getting people contributing other goals and stuff either.
No.
I just found it bizarre that he went into the game, and obviously the Everton-Southampton results, I think you'd openly admit, had probably finished it for you. But he's sitting there and going, well, if we win 5 from 6, and it's almost impossible, but win 5 from 6, well, then you need to win the first one before you can think about what's down the line. You're playing with one of the weaker sides left, Brighton, who can be got at, and he leaves them out. And I was just staggered by it when I saw the team. I couldn't believe the thinking. I mean, I know you'd said to us pre-lockdown, although you were really looking forward to the cup quarter-final with United and stuff. But the priority really had to be the league in the first instance, didn't it?
I think it did, bearing in mind especially the fact that the other teams hadn't picked up points as well. And I know you said on one of your pods, James, it's like Norwich City are still in this. And unbelievably, we were, because the other teams kept losing. And it wasn't obviously until West Ham, that they picked up the result against Chelsea, where you looked at it and thought, well, that's one team maybe gone now, but we can still get Watford, say. But we're not helping ourselves. We're not scoring goals, winning games, so it goes out the window, doesn't it? But the opportunity was still there right up until this Saturday.
It was. I said it Friday because you look at the other three teams that were down, if you exclude, obviously, West Ham had beat Chelsea and give themselves a little bit of a rise. But you've got Watford playing Chelsea, Bournemouth playing Man United, and Villa playing Liverpool. And you've got to look at it and go, this is the week to gain. And suddenly, had you won, it's only 3 points. And then as much as it looks like, well, they're not capable at the moment, you can see it then. And admittedly, because of goal difference, etc., you would have still needed a great finish. But they look so incapable at the moment, the other teams have actually putting results together. That's why I said on Friday, I was like, it's not over. If they can win, if you'd have won on Saturday, you'd be sitting there 3 points behind and thinking, well, can we all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Because there's still a few games that are very winnable.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is now that the fixtures do turn. So obviously, we can't do anything away for start, but now that's 3 home games gone now, isn't it? And unfortunately, we go 1-0 down, the heads drop, and we've got no confidence. We've not done it all season, like rescue anything once we've gone a goal down. So the heads drop, and that's it. And that's done now. It's dead and buried.
The flip is now, I'll disagree, and it's worth saying we've recorded this pre-Tottenham playing last night, so that's why I'm not commenting. But obviously, Bournemouth play Tottenham, Villa play United, and you play Watford. So actually, is it the same again? Should you go to Watford and win, you could still be in a position where suddenly it's only 3 points again.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, I know.
Well, that's it. None of you seem capable of winning games at the moment. So actually, if some of you, and then obviously you go into West Ham as well, if you could put the 6 points on the board, if you've got an easy finish with only Chelsea, Manchester City and stuff, you could still do it.
Well, the problem is getting that one win. It doesn't matter how many nice fixtures you have on paper, because I was looking at them all thinking, I don't think the crowd's helped. It's no excuse whatsoever, but there's times in them games where we would have gotten the players back, or we'd have had a bit of momentum, and we would have given them, everyone would have been up out their seats, given them a bit of a spur on for 5 or 10 minutes. We've not had that, obviously. It's the same for everyone, but I think at times some of these players are so young and need that bit of encouragement and lift, and there's no leaders in that team. So, I think the fans is a big thing. Without that, Price, we look terrible. And I think the dangerous thing is knock-on effect to next season, potentially. If we lose the next 5 games, are we going to have a hangover going into next season? And there's not a quick turnaround as well, isn't it? So are they going to be able to pick themselves up and just start winning games again?
I think we'll come back round to that, because I want to get, obviously, Chris involved, Mark, but I would sum up to say that I think if you had all 3 of those home games, Southampton, Everton and Brighton, in front of a crowd, you wouldn't have lost all 3 of them. I'm fairly certain of that. But you are right as well to say that the conditions are the same for everybody. One side that obviously benefits is West Ham, because their crowd is always in a different postcode anyway, so it should feel exactly the same for them, Chris.
I thought there was a point, and I think I'm not sure it was one of the games, the actual crowd sounded louder. The fake crowds.
That's it. Wouldn't surprise me. Now, listen, your crowd's normally vocal, just far away, mate. If we can take a step back, Chris, to the Chelsea game, what do you think went so well that night?
Before the game, I was hopeful that we'd actually get something from it. I didn't expect to win, but I thought maybe we could get a draw. They had the FA Cup, that kind of thing. They'd had a few good results. All that sort of stuff, and if we were up for it, then we'd have a chance. The trouble is, we don't always start games that well, and I think it's difficult, because I think where the crowd thing is a factor in the start of games, especially like a home game. The crowd are obviously very up for it. They're giving the players a lift. It gives the team an opportunity to start well. We haven't been doing that much all season, so I don't think that's made a big difference. So probably the lack of crowd hasn't really hindered us as much. In the Chelsea game, I was really surprised that we came back from what was a situation where we'd normally end up just capitulating. Now, a bit of that might have been luck, but we played really well. We played on the break. And I think what happens, whether it is partly because of the way Chelsea was, I mean, obviously the third goal, Alonso was, so far up the pitch. That helped. It gave us space. And the players were able to get up and support Alonso. So you had the likes of Bowen, obviously Yarmolenko coming on, Fornell's getting forward. We were getting into their half, and we were able to actually formulate attacks on the break of some sort of meaning rather than just, a random kind of A player doing something brilliant. So I think that was the factor. And I think the thing is that they didn't give up. They kept going, and their heads didn't drop. And it's probably a perfect storm where we had that situation, and Chelsea probably weren't at their best. They made a few mistakes. They didn't take a couple of chances. So things went our way. But I think it was the manner of the performance and that victory that is a huge positive. It would have given a positive uplift to the players, the manager, the team. And that can't be underestimated. Obviously, we're West Ham, so we don't always build on those things. But I think it's an opportunity. It gave us a huge opportunity, and also other teams would have been thinking, "Shit, I didn't expect." It's when you get a team that beat one of the top, the higher up teams like Chelsea, Man United, Man City, or anything like that. The other teams must be the other teams aren't expecting you to get 3 points, so it deflates them. So it's almost like a double bubble, really, in my opinion on that.
Yeah, I get that completely. I like you said about perfect storm. I think, look, it very easily could have gone the other way against Chelsea as well. I think that they're a club that can particularly get exposed on counter-attacks. I was quite frustrated with Watford on Saturday as well. But actually, the games on paper obviously look a little bit easier in the short term with obviously Norwich at the weekend. And who do you play this week? Burnley, isn't it?
No, we've got Burnley, yeah.
Now, Burnley obviously are a side who are not going to be as easy to counter-attack on. They just don't put themselves in a position to be counter-attacked on, basically. So I feel like that's a potential banana skin where the morale can drop back down quite quickly should you lose 1-2-0, for example. What's your thoughts on the Burnley game?
Yeah, I think it's. I'll go along with that. The danger with a side like Burnley is what we find difficult is to break teams down because we don't seem to have that player at the moment. Yarmolenko's come on as sub, so he's kind of slightly set a different kettle of fish. But say Lanzini playing well or Anderson playing well, where they can open up a team. We haven't really got that type of player. Bowen can do it a little bit, but he's more hard work and he'll create chances through his hard work. But we haven't got that where you're not going to get a lot of space, you're not going to get a lot of opportunity. A team like Burnley, it's very hard for us, so we're very vulnerable then to it. That's the sort of game where we could end up losing 1-0, but we could look like we should have won it, or we feel like we deserve to win it. So it is a banana skin, 100%. So I'd like to get 3 points, but it's one of those games where anything could happen in it. Nothing would surprise me. I'd be very cautious on it, and I'd hope if we come out with anything from it, I'd be fairly happy. But a lot of it's about the manner of the performance as well, how the players are performing, the team set up, that kind of thing.
I just wonder if the mindset might have shifted a little bit. The fact that you've now got the 4-point gap over the others, because the 5 games left, obviously Manchester United in game week 37 is extremely tough. But you could make a case for West Ham being favourites in the other 4. I mean, I wouldn't make you that against Burnley, for example, but you could certainly make that case with points at stake, etc. 4 draws in those games would probably be enough, mate.
Yeah, probably right. I mean, obviously, you're playing Norwich. I'd like to be safe by the time we get to Villa. So a lot of those teams, if we can score first in those games, I think we give ourselves a chance. But especially the likes of, I know Burnley are close to Europe, but they're not maybe close enough. The result, if they'd won, it might have been a slightly different story. But some of the teams we're playing, they've not all got something to play for. If we can score first, they're not going to maybe have the fight to come back or the desire to put that effort in to get the result. And that's where I think if we've given ourselves a chance because we can take a few more risks. We can come out and maybe attack. We don't have to be sitting and waiting and purely playing on the counter. And be so worried about not conceding that we don't end up looking to actually get create any chances. So if we can create some chances, we give ourselves a chance in those games.
It's a bit historical on this fixture as well, isn't there, with the whole corner flag incident the other year and and the whatnots. And I feel it might be quite symbolic actually if you win this particular fixture, because for me then you're safe completely. I'd think I couldn't see you losing all of the last 4, for example, and I think that will do it for you if you beat Burnley. Whereas I think suddenly because it's them, they become psychological. I think when you're down there and you get beat by a side like Burnley, because it always looks easier on paper than it is. You know exactly what you get from them, and I wonder if the mindset might just get a little bit worried if were you to get beat by Burnley, and then suddenly you're in that position again. Well, it's Norwich, we must win, for example. But then should Mark's team get a very good result this week, then they're going to be looking at you and thinking, well, we need to do you as well. And then suddenly they might be in a position where they're level with a Villa or a Bournemouth, for example. So what's your thoughts, Mark, on the Watford game first?
It's a tricky one. They're not only, they need to win. It's not like going to a team where they are safe or they've got nothing to play for. Watford have got something to play for, and they would have been targeting this fixture as their must-win game, where, like West Ham will be doing exactly the same, thinking that's one where we need to get something from. We certainly don't want to lose to Norwich. Watford will think this is our easiest game on paper, and that could put them safe. That could put them out of touch from the pack. It's not going to be easy there at all, I don't think, regardless of sort of how we've been playing in the last few games since the restart.
The need for victory is much greater for you than it is for Watford, because I think one of the things Watford are suffering with a little bit is probably looking at this period of yourselves, Newcastle and West Ham, and thinking, 7 points over that period will probably be enough. But it's another thing to go and do it. And I think what's interesting about the particular game today is what I'd mentioned about, I really thought Watford would set up to really exploit Chelsea on the counter-attack. And I think actually they might try and do the same to you this time. I know one of the things you've spoken about, certainly on our Slack channel, and that is the idea of actually just waiting for you to make mistakes. That's what you feel basically Brighton did, exposed you on the goal at the weekend, isn't it?
BT Sport highlighted that. They spent a good 5 minutes at half-time basically picking out the amount of times we lost the ball playing from the back, and the way we commit our fullbacks forward, it left us short. The Brighton players were just literally sitting in a pack, like a pack of wolves, waiting for us to lose the ball, and then they would bang, run straight, sprint into our penalty area. And we have been guilty of that time and time again. So it's a massive problem with the way we play. Highlighting it is playing from the back, losing the ball, and then putting ourselves in danger. So, it's a tricky one, because obviously we need to come out and play. We need points. So we are, imagine it was 0-0, say, at Watford. Like, I can't imagine it would be, but imagine when it was 60, 70 minutes, 0-0, we would have to take chances. We would have to take the game to them. And that leaves us, the way we defend, in particular, very, very dubious at the back. So I think there will come a time where Watford get their chances and that, and assuming they take them, then we're in trouble.
Do you think it's over? You're down?
No, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Even if you were to win tomorrow and then put that pressure on?
We won't win tomorrow. This is the issue.
I keep saying today, tomorrow. I should clarify. We're pre-recording this Monday until we find out, obviously, Pookie and Campbell are injured or something. And then we'll write it off completely.
When you see enough of your team and sort of, you see enough of like bad things to know roughly what is the prediction in your head and what the trail of thought and the confidence and everything like that. They look shot to pieces. They was all on the floor for 10 minutes at the end of the game. I can't imagine they'll be picking themselves up and thinking to themselves they're still in a relegation battle. They look done. The manager as well, Farker, after the game pretty much admitted that himself. He basically sort of said, it's done and dusted. He probably shouldn't have come out and said that, but...
Well, no, I mean, look, everything that we've seen suggests that you're going to finish bottom and it's finished, mate. You haven't scored a goal since the restart of your bar. Campbell's in the cup. Am I right in saying that? So, I mean, when you need to win games of football, you've got to score goals, right? And then you're losing games narrowly. We said to you, we've said it so many times all season, where you need to score 3 goals to win games. But actually, 1-0 at home to Everton, 1-0 at home to Brighton, under these conditions, there was a chance, right? If you score first in those games,
sure,
could be very, very different, actually.
I think the only way we would go to Watford and get anything is if we won 1-0, say, and we defended for our lives and we got our counter-attack and we sat back. Because it's no coincidence we've actually played better sometimes this season where we've not had to win games, where teams like Leicester, for example, like we've almost counter-attacked against them. Like some of the big boys like Arsenal, Tottenham down at Norwich, like we've actually sat back and then counter-attacked like an away team. So
Man City at home.
Yeah.
Everton
Seems
away.
an awful long time ago now,
Everton away. There's a few, mate. When you look back and you think, actually. And I think the next couple of fixtures probably don't stack up to that as much. I know Watford and West Ham are both going to be thinking, need to win. But I think actually both sides would be quite happy for you to come on to them. I think considering the game was at Watford, I think Watford might be helped by the fact there's not a crowd for this, because there'd have been an urgent expectation to get the team up the pitch if they're sitting off you, for example. Whereas I think without the crowd, actually, they can probably implement a game plan that is very suited to, letting you come onto them, and then using, I think Welbeck will play, and I would expect Sarr to play, and using them particularly in the wide areas with Decore essentially to then go and do the damage on the break for you. Do you see yourself getting anything in the game?
No, I can't see it. No. The only way I could is if Adam Eder played. Now, he's an interesting one. A lot of people won't know much about him, but he came on. He's the lad who hit the post in the last minute against Brighton. There's sort of a growing call for people to sort of be saying he should have more minutes. And to a lot of people, he's the number 2 striker. Dermot should not be getting a look in. He carries sort of no threat, and he doesn't look up to the pace of this league. So if Pukki's out of sorts, a lot of people are quite intrigued by this young chap because he's pacey, he's strong, he looks like a different dimension, a different dynamic to what anything else we've got. I think that would be the only way. He played in the FA Cup at Preston, he got a hat-trick, and he did start at Man United when Pukki was injured, and he's not really had a sniff since then in the league, unless it's sub appearances. I think if you unleash him, it's a bit of an unknown beast, if you know. You don't really know what you're going to get, whereas I know what I'm going to get for the rest of that team at the moment. So that would be an interesting one. If he was in the lineup tomorrow, I might think we would carry a bit more attacking threat and score. But very much lineup dependent, yeah.
Mark, do you think? I was going to say, do you think if you're, if say you get you do get a win or you get a draw, if you're not actually mathematically relegated and you've still got a chance, do you think that puts more pressure on the players? So if once they're relegated, they're probably actually the pressure will go, and they'd be maybe more of a threat. So because from my perspective, I'd hope that you get a draw or something, so you're not kind of all but mathematically relegated. Because if you've got that nervousness in the West Ham game, but if you've got no pressure whatsoever, you're more likely to perform. I think it happens a lot with
I've seen it before. We've been relegated. This would be like the 3rd time out of 7, won't it? So 7 years we've been relegated. So it's not unusual. I've seen it before with us. I think we won at Man City about 5 years ago. Last game of the season, we'd been relegated. We won 3-2 there. And you're looking at it, you're thinking, that's never going to happen. You're never going to go there and win. But the pressure was off. We'd picked out a result and we'd out of nothing, And there's been a few times where even players who you think they're going to go on to bigger things and they're going to be sold in the summer, they've gone out with a bang. Once the pressure's off. So possible, yeah.
I'm just thinking about the FPL community. If you win at Man City on the last day of the season, mate.
Imagine. I know.
It'll be a meltdown. But yeah, I think Chris is a really good question. He's got a point there.
Everyone would be tripled up last game, won't they? And they're like on attacking threat, and people would be playing triple captains, 3 hits the lot, won't they? And people will go hard on them.
Krul, Cantwell, Pukki, we're all tripling up, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything from an FPL perspective, Mark, to just forget?
No, you can't. No. Cantwell was a viable option for 3/4 of the season, but in the last few weeks, we've seen Saka come through at the same sort of price. Even Foden now for like 0.3, 0.4 more. Much better much better options elsewhere. With Cantwell, I mean, he's not. He scored in the cup, but he's not assisted, I think, since August as well. So you're not getting the assist. You might get the odd goal, but you'd struggle to know when to play him, in all honesty, as well. So there's no way you could possibly look at him defensively. No clean sheets. I can't say there's anyone to look at.
No, I think even with Campbell, when you look at the cheapness of what you can have going forward in the likes of Nketiah and Greenwood and that, you're even hard pressed to think, oh, leave this, get this guy in and leave him on. I mean, if he's in your squad, he's fine. He'll facilitate a bench boost in 34, 35 or 37, fine. But you're not even really expecting the returns at the moment, I don't think, in it. So I think from an FPL perspective, I think you're very honest and you're right, Mark. I think it's just
and the frustration is obviously is knowing when to play him. He's been dropped a couple of times, well, rotated a couple of times now. So it's you can't say for sure he's going to start. And especially if we was to get relegated, or officially with say 3 games to go, then the manager might try and mix things up. He might try and blood some youngsters who give them the opportunity. He might not, but there's absolutely no way of telling what that lineup would be then either.
Just the one thing, just to go back to Adamida, he obviously offers you something different in terms of direction. I was just thinking about the header against Brighton where we were talking there, and I was thinking, I can't think that Norwich have scored a goal like that all season.
It's been a long time.
A cross into the box like that and someone getting across the front of someone.
No. Well, perfect example of that. Prior to that, there was 2 opportunities. There was 2 balls put into the box where Lewis crossed one and McLean crossed one. Pukki didn't gamble and Dermich didn't gamble. Neither of them gambled. And I mean, that probably comes down to a lack of confidence, but ran into that area where they should be telepathic and know where the ball's going. Like, they played with each other long enough now, and they was doing it before. 6-9 months ago, they was on the same wavelength. None of these players seem to be on the same wavelength anymore. But Ida, credit to him. He nearly got us back in it. So,
the flip side, Chris, is I think actually, oddly, there's a lot of FPL assets we can look at your side at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's obviously a slightly different situation to Norwich and Mark. The price thing with what you touched on, so many cheap players. It's who do you, where do you put them? But there are players that you could look at. I mean, I would say the ones that stand out are obviously Bowen, Antonio, C.O.T.C maybe as an outsider. But he has got a record as a player of scoring a lot of goals. He scored. I can't even remember what team it's Prague. He played for. It might be Slava Prague, but he was. He'd scored something like 13 goals in the previous season, and then before January he'd scored 8 goals for them. So he has got a record of goal scoring, and he scored in the European qualifiers. He scored in Champions League games. So he's not a bad one if you don't really want to put someone in at say 6.5 or 6.8. He's not going to guarantee you a goal, but at the moment he said he scored 2 goals, arguably 3. He had a really good header yesterday against, or not so much the actual header itself, but the way he got the actual header away against Newcastle yesterday. Quite sort of about players mid sort of height, but the fact he's able to get in those positions, get himself in there. He's good at set pieces. He's 6'4". He's obviously good in the air. He's not a bad shout for the price. I think he's either 4.8 or 4.9 now, maybe. So he's quite a good option. Antonio and Bowen, they're quite difficult because Antonio's going to get you more goals. Bowen has got a record of goals in the Championship, but I think the problem with him at the moment is that he's having to do a lot more defensive work. Now, against some of the other teams, maybe like Norwich, maybe even Burnley, those sort of teams, if he can get him further up the pitch, get him into the box more, he maybe will offer more of a goal threat. But he is going to play. He is guaranteed to play. Those 3 players will play. Defensively, I think it's quite hard. So, I mean, Ogbonna, if I had to choose someone, probably because of set pieces, but at the end of the day, we have let into. I know he played, obviously we played, trying to think if we obviously played Chelsea. Trying to think we played in the first game back. Seems so long ago now, but we've let in 2 goals in all of our 4 games now. So realistically, I wouldn't really be putting in the West Ham defender unless you've got someone who's injured or something like that.
Well, I'd throw an extra one in, possibly for bench boosters again. Really, is this a Diop? It's only 4.3 million. He's played 90 minutes every game since game week 23. There are three goals in that spell, actually. There's 3 goals over about 10 games. It's not too bad.
Yeah, his
So he's
stats are
also
good.
a threat from set pieces, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. The only thing that worries me is that he looks like he's always got a mistake in him at the moment. The only saving grace for him is that we haven't really got anyone else to play in his place, because it's Balbona is the only person who's come in, and I don't think he's really trusted, and he hasn't got the pace. So I think he probably will play. So he does offer that threat, like you say. I don't think he's been as effective since the lockdown, since we come back. He seems to make, but then he's the sort of player which just pop up with the goal, and then his confidence will soar. He's a young player at the end of the day. So he's like I say, he's cheap. So he's cheaper than Agbona. If you were going to pick someone out, I'll definitely go with one of the centre backs, not the full backs.
And Flappy's always a shout, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, goalkeeper wise, he's got the save points, so you've got a bit of a safety net with him, because we are going to concede shots, and if he does get a clean sheet, then there's always a chance of the bonus points as well as the save points. So he's always
looking
good.
at Fabianski's FPL numbers. This is quite interesting. Going back to the 6-0, the 4-0 win against Bournemouth in game week 21. That was the last time Fabianski scored more than 2 points. So he had a sub appearance 22. He came off injured at Sheffield United. Then he missed 23-24. And then since coming back in for the Liverpool game, which was the second part of your double in 24, his scores are 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. So maybe he's not.
I wonder how much of that though is because you are in some games, but you're not getting games where they're true 90-minute games now, are you? Where teams are constantly attacking your goal. It's more been moments of quality that are where the goals have come from, rather than, there's been the odd exception in games, but rather than as a whole relentless pressure, make multiple saves, all that kind of thing. You haven't got when teams have got the momentum, you haven't got the crowd to keep that momentum going, maybe. So maybe that's a factor. So yeah, that probably hinders him, because he needs a lot. He needs to have a lot of shots to make a lot of saves.
One issue looking through all those games is, other than the defeat at Arsenal in game week 29, we were very unlucky that day, actually. You've conceded at least 2 in all of them games, even including obviously the draw at Newcastle on Sunday and the victory against Chelsea last week. So, I mean, that's going to give, when you flip it like that, I don't know, should we look at a potential Burnley asset even, maybe like Dwight McNeil, do you think? Or Chris Wood's fit again? I think he's done some damage against you in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah. Any of the forwards, I mean, someone like that, because they've got that set piece threat, a bit of an element where someone like Chris Woods, where he bully the defenders, and especially someone like Diop, he'll make a mistake, or Fredericks will, their positioning's not quite right. Even Agbona, he's a better defender than most of them, but he's still liable to try and have a physical battle with someone, and sometimes he'll come off worse. So anyone like that is gonna be a threat against us. I wouldn't. It's difficult. I wouldn't really. I'd probably look more at someone like Pope or someone of the defensive assets. Maybe even one of the central defenders, because again, we're bad at set pieces. Set pieces, and then anyone getting down the wings and crossing a ball in, that's where we're going to concede from. That's where we're conceding most of our goals from. So yeah, anyone's got a chance to score against us, and obviously we have conceded 2 goals. I'd like to think it's because we've played some better sides. I know Newcastle you wouldn't maybe put in that category, but they have been scoring quite a few goals of late. So at the moment, they've been scoring like 2, 3, 4 goals in some of their games. So maybe the likes of Burnley, if they don't create enough chances, we can maybe keep them out.
What do you make of Yarmolenko? Do you see him? One of the things I spoke about in the main podcast was the idea of him potentially coming back in the team, which would maybe mean Bowen going to the left. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know if he's a 90-minute player. I think he's probably more effective coming on from the bench. He could use him. I mean, his strength is in these sorts of games. He's ideal because the games aren't as physical, and what he will offer you is that moment of quality where he can come in, shoot on his. If you get him on his left foot, he's got a quality left foot. I think there's an element of people's nostalgia in that they're remembering the player of maybe 5 or 6 years ago when he really made his name, rather than what he is now. I like Bowen on the right, if I'm honest. That's the only drawback of that. There's been talk of Yarmolenko maybe being played up as a striker, which would move Antonio out to the left, which wouldn't be a bad.
I would strongly disagree with that idea. Antonio's got to stay through the middle, in my opinion.
The only thing is, lately, the last game and against Chelsea, it's been effective. Obviously, when he played he was very isolated. If he's not isolated, it's fine. So at the moment, it wouldn't make much sense to actually make that change. I think I would probably keep it as it is. The player who's probably most at risk is probably Lanzini. So that's where. But then, do you want to shuffle people around to fit a player in when the other players are playing well in those positions? So I'd probably have him as a sub. But he's pushing. He's certainly pushing for a start. Whether it might benefit Bowen on the left, I've not really seen him there to say how effective he'd be, because possibly he could be the one cutting in, and that might give him those chances to score. It might improve Bowen's appeal from an FPL point of view.
I'd see Bowen as a much bigger threat from the right than the left. Of what I've seen, little bits of the game on Sunday in terms of when it shifted briefly. And a little bit of what I've seen of him from Hull, obviously, and what he's done for yourself. That I just feel he loves that run from outside to in. He gets very involved. I think he's already got the link up with Antonio. There's similarities in the goals Antonio scored against Chelsea and Newcastle. Not that he can't play that cross, obviously, from the left. He's very comfortable on his left foot. But I think from the right, there's less predictability in terms of which way he's going. Because I think on the left, I think from an FPL perspective, you'll be more drawn to want to look to go on the outside. I don't think he's quite got the pace to do it. I mean,
no, he hasn't.
Playing against Norwich at the weekend, for example, Max Aarons isn't going to be particularly bothered about that if he wants to take him on the outside. I think Aarons would be fine with that. So do you think if you had to pick one, Antonio or Bowen, which would you lean towards Antonio then?
It's really difficult because Antonio's got the goal threat. I'd probably, it's almost flip of a coin job, but I'd probably just about, and this is maybe taking a little bit of a risk, go with Bowen, purely because I think he offers a wider range of, from an FPL point of scoring, and I think also he would probably score better in the bonus point system because he does more, in terms of contributions, like he'll tackle back, crosses, passes, shots. So he kind of gives you a bit of everything. But there's not a lot between them. I think his price is a bit kinder, but there's not really a lot between them. Obviously, people look at goals. If you're looking at pure goals, then Antonio, yes.
I think I'd lean Bowen. What's your thoughts on the two, Mark?
God, they're both. I mean, this is why West Ham would be okay, I think, isn't it? Because that attacking threat, they're good, aren't they? I mean, Bowen
steady.
Yeah, forgot he was a Spurs fan for a minute.
Listen, they didn't score against us. They must be shit, mate.
Yeah. Do you know what, Bowen? I mean, yeah, I like what I see from him. He's a bit of an unknown as well in terms of FPL, isn't he? Not many people are going to own him, so I think like for the last few games, you could do worse than take a punt, couldn't you?
I think if he got moved to the left, it'd be interesting because where he'd benefit is that he would be able to play higher up the pitch because he'd have Cresswell behind him, who's more of a defender and probably a bit more trustworthy in positional sense. So that would maybe relieve a bit of pressure off him having to come back as much because Cresswell, I know he's going to get done for pace, but he's not going to get caught out of position as much as maybe someone like Fredericks. So I think if he did get moved to the left, it probably would make his appeal even stronger. But as I say, I'll probably lean towards Bowen. Certainly in the, I know it's off FPL, but in the Sky game, Bowen would be the stronger one.
Yeah, I decided not to buy him. There's there's a story behind that, which I'll answer on tomorrow's podcast. Just quickly, guys, Mark, are you interested in buying any? I know you said no Norwich, any West Ham assets? Are you looking to buy yourself?
I had a question for Chris actually, because I'm probably not going to buy any more, but I own Fabianski, so I've done the Fabianski Martinez rotation. Who do I play tomorrow night for the next game week? So obviously Fabianski home to Burnley, and Martinez home to Leicester. Who keeps the clean sheet there?
Neither.
I would probably go with Martinez purely for the fact of if Fabianski doesn't keep a clean sheet, Burnley probably aren't going to have 10 shots against us, so you're not going to have to save points.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, probably a bit higher ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, with Martinez, I know the risk is if the one that keeps the clean sheet is obviously going to be the better pick, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I would say purely because of the save points factor, with the insurance, I would say Martinez. Because he's going to get...
Arsenal are on a run defensively, aren't they? I know.
Yeah, they are.
They played three sides, yourselves, Southampton and Wolves, who are not always blessed in terms of scoring goals. And I think Leicester's a very different proposition. But it depends how Leicester set up. You won't get that benefit before the deadline. We do, of course, Mark, get the benefit of your deadline and your team every single week from Rockstar. That's worth a lot,
it's brilliant. Yeah, I can see everyone's interested in that, aren't they? Well, they might.
I can't believe the way it's worked out.
No, it's amazing. I mean, they might be for the other sort of assets. If people are potentially looking at a Watford, like gambling on a Watford player or West Ham player, yeah, it could work. People are going to look for differentials in the next few weeks for like mini leagues and what have you. So, yeah, maybe, but not for us.
Cool. Really good, lads. Before we finish, Mark, prediction first for Watford.
2-0 to Watford.
Bloody hell. And Chris, prediction for Burnley?
I'm going to say 1-0 West Ham, but it could just as easily be 1-0 Burnley.
And Mark, prediction for West Ham? Sorry, mate.
It's going to be 3-1 to West Ham.
Wow, you think you score? That's
we
good.
are going to score one. We're going to break our duck.
Are you just saying that though because Fabianski's your FPL keeper?
Yeah.
And Chris, prediction for Norwich?
I was going to be optimistic and say the same score, but I'll probably 2-1 or 3-1. But I'll go with the optimistic 3-1. The West Ham.
I'm afraid at the moment, Mark, I can't see scoring goals. That's going to be the biggest thing.
Not even one over 2 games.
Yeah, I think you will, but I can't see you getting anything, the two of them, mate. I think Watford will make it difficult for themselves. I think if West Ham win against Burnley, I wouldn't be surprised if you beat them, actually, at the weekend, because they'll feel safe and they'll get sloppy. It's what they do. But I think if they don't beat Burnley, I imagine they'll probably, when you compare the two front lines between the two, I think they'll score, and I think you might struggle to do so. But actually, Chris, I think Burnley might beat you, actually.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I say. It could be 1-0 either side, so neither would shock me. I probably would maybe favour Burnley slightly more because they've got that. But it's that sort of game where you go. So many teams go into when they play Burnley thinking they're going to beat them, and they end up coming up on the wrong side of a 1-0.
They are a shitter to play against, especially when you're in trouble. And you've still got them to go as well, haven't you, Mark?
Yeah, something to look forward to, yeah.
It's one of them on paper, though, right? Who knows? Watford, West Ham, Burnley. Win all 3 of them games and everyone else keeps losing, and that's it. You stay up, mate.
Can you imagine? That would be some story, wouldn't it?
Or, of course, then you win at Manchester City in game week 38 just to put the icing on the cake, mate.
Yeah.
Guys, really good. Thanks very much for that. Best of luck for the rest of the season. Chris, I don't want you to go down. I know I keep saying it, Suj. I mean it. I enjoy beating you twice every year.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Mark, just one thing to finish on, because we didn't really cover it. I presume you think mass exodus if you do go down.
Yeah. I think there'll be 4 or 5 go, certainly. Some of them, I think, deserve the move. I think the young boys, Godfrey, Lewis, Aarons, I mean, they make mistakes, yeah, but and I could see why people would look at them and think, oh, 25 million, they're not worth 25 million, but they should not be all playing together in the same back four. This is the issue. I think you stick one of them in a back four in most other teams in the league, they'll be fine. just not all together with a Grant Hanley or a Tim Closer. It just don't work, does it? So yeah, I expect all three of them to go. I think value depends on how we perform in the next few games, because the world's looking at them, aren't they? So it's up to them to sort of shine and do their best. Buendia, I think, is pissed me off, to be honest, the last few months. People can throw whatever stats they want, but he ain't scored all season. He's not done enough. So be very interested to see where he goes. I certainly don't think he'll be with us. He won't be with us next year, I don't think. And Krul and Pukki, interesting ones. Pukki probably will be with us still, because he's not, he ain't scored and he's gone off the boil. Krul, I think he's quite settled. He could probably get himself a better move, but whether he'd want to take it, I think it would be the youngsters who go, certainly.
I agree. I think that's absolutely spot on. By the way, just from a Spurs perspective, I would take Aarons, Godfrey and Lewis. I'm not joking. I'd take all three of them, which says a lot about my own team at the moment. Who knows? Maybe we kept a clean sheet against Everton, but I don't know at the moment. Guys, really, really good. In terms of us, Sky Podcast tomorrow, we will be talking about Jared Bowen quite a bit, actually. Thursday, what are we doing Thursday? I can't remember. Friday's the review of the game week. What do we normally do on a Thursday? Oh, Thursday we're doing a special on Wigan Athletic, because there is a massive problem for them. They've gone into administration. There's a lot of rumours going on in the background about dodgy bets and all sorts. We'll be covering that Thursday. Patrons, you'll know what's coming. I think that's it. I don't really know how to close these podcasts, so Suj is really here. So good luck to everybody in the upcoming game week. Ciao for now. Cue music, please, man child.